Have you ever stared at your bare garden in the middle of April, felt a chilly breeze, and thought it was way too early to start planting? Well, prepare to have your mind blown. Holding back right now might actually be the biggest mistake you're making in your gardening journey. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into the ultimate guide on what to sow from mid-April. I'm going to share 8 incredible plant categories that absolutely demand to go into the ground right now. I promise you by the end of this video, you will be rushing out the door with a handful of seed packets, armed with knowledge that most beginners take years to figure out. We are going to bust some massive myths about frost dates and reveal a completely counterintuitive secret about why freezing weather is actually your best friend for a massive summer harvest. So, tell me the truth and drop a comment below right now. Do you usually wait until May to plant, or are you a brave April sower? Let us settle this debate in the comments. Before we get our hands dirty, let us set the stage and understand what is really happening out in the yard. The middle of April is a magical transitional time in the gardening world. Historically, before we had fancy weather apps and plastic greenhouses, farmers relied entirely on the physical feel of the earth. They knew that mid-April is when the sun angle changes enough to start baking the top layer of the ground. We are moving away from the frozen, waterlogged mud of winter and stepping into the perfect sweet spot. The air might still bite your nose in the morning, but beneath the surface, the soil temperature is steadily rising. This specific combination of cool air and waking soil triggers ancient biological alarms inside certain seeds. If you miss this brief historical window and wait for the hot days of summer, these specific cool weather crops will panic, bolt, and taste absolutely terrible. Understanding this balance is your first step to becoming a master gardener. Let us start with the absolute classics, carrots and radishes. You might think that because the air still feels a bit chilly, these root vegetables need to wait, but that is a massive gardening myth. The truth is, carrots and radishes actually prefer the cooler soil of mid-April. If you wait until the hot days of summer, your radish will bolt, turn incredibly bitter, and produce flowers instead of that crispy red root. Imagine pulling up a perfect ruby red radish just 3 or 4 weeks from now. That is the magic of sowing early. When planting carrots, the biggest secret is soil preparation. You need to make sure the soil is loose and completely free of rocks. If a growing carrot hits a stone, it will fork and grow into a funny, twisted shape. It still tastes great, but it is not that picture-perfect harvest. Radishes, on the other hand, are the ultimate confidence builders for any gardener. They germinate in just a few days. You can actually use them as row markers for your slower-growing carrots. Simply mix the seeds together when sowing. The radishes will pop up quickly, showing you exactly where the row is, and when you pull them out to eat, you are naturally thinning the line to give your carrots the space they need to grow big and sweet. This simple trick saves you time and maximizes your garden space beautifully. Moving on to our next essential group, leafy greens, specifically spinach and loose-leaf lettuce. There is a common misconception that all fragile-looking leaves will instantly turn to mush at the slightest hint of a late spring frost. Let me debunk that right now. Spinach is incredibly tough. In fact, if you sow it in mid-April, the cool temperatures actually encourage it to grow thicker, sweeter leaves. Picture walking out to your garden on a crisp morning. There might be a light frost on the ground, and your spinach leaves look slightly frozen. But as soon as the morning sun hits them, they perk right back up completely unharmed. That is the resilience of spring greens. For lettuce, you want to focus on the cut-and-come-again varieties rather than heading lettuces. Sowing them directly into the soil now gives you a continuous harvest. You just snip the outer leaves for your evening salad, and the center keeps growing. A great tip here is to not bury the lettuce seeds too deep. They actually need a tiny bit of light to germinate properly. Just gently press them into the surface of the moist soil. By starting these greens in the middle of April, you completely avoid the bitter taste that plagues summer-grown lettuce, giving you the most delicate, sweet salads you have ever tasted straight from your own backyard. Now let us talk about a true garden favorite, peas. Whether you prefer sweet garden peas, snow peas, or sugar snap peas, mid-April is the absolute deadline to get them into the ground. A lot of beginner gardeners make the mistake of starting pea seeds in tiny pots indoors on a sunny windowsill. This is a huge myth and a waste of your time. Peas have very delicate taproots that absolutely hate being transplanted. If you move them, they get stunned and stop growing. The best method is to sow the seeds directly outside right now. Before you plant, you can soak the pea seeds in a bowl of water overnight. This softens the hard outer shell and kickstarts the germination process. When you plant them, remember that peas want to climb. Imagine building a simple, rustic teepee out of bamboo sticks or fallen branches right in your garden bed. As the peas sprout, their little tendrils will reach out and grab the wood, pulling themselves upward toward the sun. This not only saves valuable ground space, but also creates a beautiful, vertical green feature in your garden. Harvesting standing up is also much easier on your back. Sowing peas in mid-April guarantees that the plants will mature and produce those sweet, crunchy pods long before the intense summer heat arrives, which would otherwise cause the plants to dry up and die off. Let us move to a vibrant and dual-purpose family of plants, beets and Swiss chard. Many people do not realize that these two are actually very close botanical cousins. A huge myth surrounding beets is that you are only growing them for that dark red root hidden underground. But here's the brilliant part about sowing them in mid-April. While you are waiting for the beet roots to swell up, you can harvest the young, tender beet leaves to use exactly like spinach in your salads or stir-fries. It is a fantastic 2-for-1 deal from a single seed. And speaking of seeds, here is a fascinating fact. When you hold a beet or chard seed in your hand, you are not actually holding a single seed. It is a dried fruit capsule that contains 3 or 4 individual seeds inside. That means when you plant one rough little sphere, you will almost certainly get a cluster of seedlings popping up. You must be ruthless and thin them out, leaving only the strongest plant, or they will crowd each other out and you will never get a proper harvest. Picture a row of Swiss chard catching the afternoon sunlight. The stems glow in bright shades of neon pink, yellow, and red, looking almost like stained glass. Getting these seeds into the cool April earth allows them to establish a deep root system, setting you up for a continuous harvest. Next up, we have the fast-growing members of the Brassica family. I am talking about kohlrabi and early spring cabbage. When people hear the word cabbage, they usually picture giant, heavy heads that take 6 months to grow and take up massive amounts of space. That is a completely outdated way of looking at it. By choosing early, fast-maturing varieties and sowing them right in the middle of April, you can be eating fresh cabbage in just about 8 weeks. But the real star of the mid-April garden is kohlrabi. If you have never grown it, you are missing out. It looks like a little green or purple alien spaceship sitting right on top of the soil. The myth here is that all brassicas need to be started indoors under expensive grow lights. While that is true for huge winter cabbages, quick kohlrabi seeds do wonderfully when sown directly in the cool spring soil. They grow fast and furious. Imagine slicing into a freshly harvested kohlrabi. It has the crisp crunch of an apple but a mild, sweet broccoli flavor. It is absolutely incredible. The key to success with these fast brassicas in April is consistent moisture. If the spring rains do not arrive, you need to step in with the watering can. If they dry out even once, the kohlrabi stems can become woody and tough to eat. So keep that soil nicely damp and you will be rewarded. Let us dive into the world of alliums, specifically spring onions, scallions, and early leeks. There is a very stubborn myth that the only way to grow onions is to buy tiny, dried onion bulbs called sets from the garden center. While sets are easy, they are expensive and give you very limited choices. The truth is, sowing onion and leek seeds directly into your garden beds in mid-April opens up a world of gourmet varieties. Spring onions and leeks do not mind the cool soil at all. Their seeds resemble tiny pieces of black charcoal, and they are incredibly tough. The trick here is patience. Onion seedlings look exactly like tiny blades of grass when they first emerge. I cannot tell you how many times new gardeners have accidentally weeded out their entire onion crop because they thought it was just crabgrass taking over. So make sure you mark your rows clearly. Imagine pulling up a massive, thick leek later in the season to make a comforting potato and leek soup. To get that long, beautiful white stem, you have to start them now. As the leeks grow throughout the spring, you gently mound the soil up around the base of the plant. This blocks the sunlight from the stem, keeping it tender and white, a process called blanching. Starting early is the only way to succeed here. Now we must talk about the aromatic powerhouse of the spring garden, herbs, specifically dill and cilantro. These two herbs are absolute staples for summer cooking, But if you wait until the summer heat arrives to plant them, you are setting yourself up for failure. The biggest myth about dill and cilantro is that you can buy them in little plastic pots at the grocery store, plant them in your garden, and expect them to thrive. They absolutely despise having their roots disturbed. If you transplant them, they will immediately panic, shoot up a flower stalk, and stop producing leaves. This is called bolting. The foolproof way to grow them is to sow the seeds directly into the garden soil starting in mid-April. Picture this: you are out by the grill in midsummer, and you walk over to your garden to grab a handful of fresh cilantro for homemade salsa. That is only possible if you start sowing now, and do not just plant them once. The secret technique here is called succession sowing. You sprinkle a small pinch of seeds every 2 weeks from mid-April onwards. This guarantees that as one batch of herbs gets old and goes to seed, a fresh, tender batch is right behind it ready to be harvested. Plus, when dill eventually does flower, it attracts hundreds of beneficial insects to your garden. Finally, we cannot talk about mid-April sowing without discussing flowers. I am talking about cold-hardy annuals like sweet peas, calendula, and nasturtiums. A lot of vegetable gardeners believe the myth that flowers are just a waste of space and only belong in formal landscaping. This could not be further from the truth. Flowers are the hardest working employees in your vegetable garden. Sowing calendula seeds right next to your emerging spring greens is a genius move. Calendula acts as a trap crop. This means that annoying pests, like aphids, will actually choose to eat the calendula instead of destroying your precious lettuce and spinach. It is organic pest control at its absolute finest. Imagine a garden border filled with the bright, cheerful orange and yellow faces of calendula blooms. Not only do they protect your food, but their petals are actually completely edible and look stunning sprinkled over a spring salad. Sweet peas are another must-sow for April. Much like edible garden peas, they love cool soil and hate being transplanted. You plant them at the base of a trellis, and they will scramble up, providing the most intoxicating sweet perfume every time you walk by your garden. Integrating these seeds now ensures your garden is ecologically balanced from the very start. And there you have it, the ultimate mid-April planning guide. Here's the massive plot twist that most people miss. By getting these seeds into the ground while the air is still a bit chilly, you are actually saving yourself months of heartache. You completely bypass the worst of the summer garden pests because your plants will already be huge and strong by the time the bugs wake up. You are essentially cheating the system by using the cool spring weather to your advantage. We have covered everything from fast-growing radishes and resilient spinach to the magical pest control powers of spring flowers. Sowing early sets the entire foundation for a massive, unstoppable summer harvest. Thank you so much for watching and spending your time with me in the garden today. If you learned something new, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Now, it is your turn to share. Head down to the comments and tell me, what is the very first seed you are going to put into the ground this April? I read every single comment and I cannot wait to see what you are growing.